Hello. Here we are, I guess. I hope. It's always with a slight delay that I can see whether my live stream is working or not. I see some positive signs right now. This looks good. Yeah. Yeah, I think it started. So that's something. Good morning to you, I think. We probably just all just woke up, including the person from Australia. No. Now, you've probably been awake for quite a while and have had a very interesting day thinking about where to take our story today. And I guess there's one thing I should address right now because I have not addressed it in any other way before. There is a comment waiting for a response from Millicent. And it's quite an interesting comment. It's about our decision in the last live stream to have one of the magicians, the Magi, say, I'm not sure who it was, so I'm going to go with they, freed the people from a prison. And there's a very interesting and long discussion to be had there. And I think probably that discussion needs to be had. I don't think this live stream is the place to have it. And I'm not even sure I'm the person to have it in a way that is appropriate. But I will respond to your comment, Millicent. And also, just to have stated that I'm firmly in favor of abolishing police and the carceral system, but that doesn't tell us anything about what's the right, whatever we mean by that, position to take by individual characters in our story. So it's almost besides the point, except, of course, for my wanting our story to, in a way, endorse values I think are important. But how we do that is also not obvious. So that's a bit complicated. Who would have thought? And I think I'm going to go the easy way, in a manner of speaking, by not addressing it further today. I think we can talk a bit about it in the chat, but I think if we want to discuss that question in the depth that would be needed to have a meaningful dialogue. The hour we have would not suffice, and it would probably lead away from the live stream I envisioned here. This is not a subtle way of saying you shouldn't have said that. This is just me explaining why I won't go back to that part of the story and work on that today. I'll just leave it as it is for now. I'm not even sure. Now, does what I just explained even make sense? Because I'm not quite sure where we stopped last time. No, that's good. Yeah. Also, we already have addressed, we were in the process of addressing it, I just see. Well, yeah. I'll leave it as it is for now, and I think that we can talk about it later on. And we need to decide where to go from here. So from this place, I'm going to ask if anybody has specific wishes for how to proceed. Otherwise, I have brought a few questions for today. And I think there are two rather fundamental questions about how to proceed with the story and how to plan it, which we don't necessarily need to settle today, but I'm curious and I would like to have a little feedback from you about that. And one thing I would like to ask, and I would like to do it in the form of a poll in the chat, do you think, and let me stress this again, this is preliminary. Both answers you can give now, or both questions I'm asking now, I think they won't influence today's writing stream at all. I think they might influence the next one, or maybe the one after that. I just would like to know what you envision when you think about the future, the more or less long-term future of our story. Mm. And one such question is, do you think we should have or several personal antagonists, like, I don't know, evil Magi? Maybe I'll even offer that choice in the responses. So let's try that. You know what I mean. Or maybe if you don't, I should explain a bit. By personal antagonists, I mean, I'm not even quite sure what I mean myself. The thing is, the Magi are trying to make the world better. That's almost kind of a joke because they don't know how, and neither do we exactly. And one decision we probably will have to make sooner or later is there a force personalized in some way or another that is working against them? That could be, yeah, evil Magi, some sort of supernatural creature like demons or something. It would, I guess, have to be something powerful in some way, because otherwise it wouldn't be a very serviceable antagonist against these supernaturally powerful people. But we can, of course, have kind of a non-supernatural but still rather powerful and secret organization that the Magi would be able to just eradicate if they just found them. That would also be a possibility, like a cabal of evil conspirators or something like that. Mm. And of course, there is the, I think, rather plausible possibility of not having that, of just having that story with the Magi and Munira and, well, kind of the forces of our societies we live in being what opposes them. I think that might be enough for a good story. You don't need Sauron's eye somewhere, and I personally think, well, well, no, it's not true. You can't say that the Lord of the Rings doesn't have personal antagonists, because it obviously does. But I think there is an argument there that Sauron is not one. Of course, it depends on your definition, but he's not a person in the story The Lord of the Rings. He's not even a force in a way, I think. Well, whatever. I'm digressing. So let's try that. First answer, just no, which is always a good answer, or almost. It's almost always a good answer. No. Another good answer. Well, of course, just to make that clear, voting no on personal antagonists does not mean there will never ever be a person opposing them. I'm just saying there will not be whatever that exactly means, equal force that's personalized opposing them. That's what I mean. We already had, like for example, the police people in our first short story in the beginning. They are, of course, personalized antagonists in a way, but they are in no way the equal of Sam. There's just no opposition there. Sam can just wave them away, and there are no real opposition to them. So again, as always, I will not go to the trouble of trying to do something memorable and sensible with the emoji I put up for your vote. I'll just use any old emoji my cursor happens to land upon, and use that for the poll. Yeah, Millicent says there could be other magi who doesn't like them interfering, for example. Yeah, absolutely, of course, we can do that. Yes, other magi. This is, of course, this is a rough sketch. If you vote for other magi, that doesn't mean they call themselves magi. That's just a shorthand for, I don't know, kind of human beings, more or less, who have supernatural powers, something like that. Yes, other magi. Non-human supernatural power like demons or something. This just, you can of course always make up your own ideas. I'm just checking out what our thoughts are on this. Non-magical, hidden, powerful organizations. And then let's just go with one other possibility. No idea. I'm not sure that counts. I'm thinking about like governments. I don't think that counts. I think I'm leaving that out, because of course they will oppose the Magi, but since they have no supernatural powers, and they, well, we can't write this story without governments opposing the Magi. We can, of course, focus on individual actors in those governments, like President of the United States would be an obvious example, and the German Chancellor also, of course. But I think there's no point placing them in this category, because on the one hand, they're unavoidable. On the other hand, they don't really fall into this category for me. Maybe I'm adding, because that's similar, but it's not the same, and it's a funny idea, and I just want to offer it, and so we can discard it or not. Superheroes or something. I realize this is kind of similar to the other Magi category, but I think there's a difference between superheroes and Magi, you know, because superheroes are not magic in the fantasy sense. So I think it's a different in taste or in mood rather than in actual fact. So yeah, let's go with that. And of course you can add other ideas if you want to, or we can talk about that in great length in the chat and all that. I just want to, this is just me quickly fishing for a tendency. There's the ninja, and here is the supernatural. What? Gekrimbel answers, from my personal perception, I find it most interesting and reliable if the main antagonist force is just society and structures as they have developed in their combination of Dano, people seeking and cementing power, and also people being badly unable to organize things efficiently and constructively if they try, and thus resulting in a world as it is, but that makes it also incredibly hard to win, much harder than defeating an evil force. No, you're right. On the one hand, you're completely right. On the other hand, I think this story will not have a clear win in the end, in a naive sense, because I think this story will not work in the way I usually write. I think you could make a nice little children's story or something, but we will not have an end to this story where, yay, humanity is freed and everything is all right now. I don't think we will get there. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying I will refuse if it turns out that way. I'm just saying I don't believe this is where this story can lead. So no worries there. No worries. Just keep cool. Don't fuss. Don't worry. Humanity will stay deeply evil and unpleasant forever. So yeah, having settled that issue, next question. I think this one is a bit easier. Do we want to focus, and by focus I don't mean to the exclusion of everything else. I mean whether this is supposed to be one of possibly many focus issues of this story on the aspect of Munira learning to become one of maybe or the second Magi, because we mentioned that in the beginning. I think Sam in the original short story said something along the lines, we'll need second Magi sooner or later. So we could make this story partially, not necessarily all the way, but partially, about Munira learning magic. And I think that can be interesting. It's hard to do because obviously there is no magic, so we will need to make up a lot of stuff and try to avoid the usual traps in there. But I think it can also be interesting and fun. So I'll put that up for voting. Oh, I forgot to call it a poll. I'll do that right away, but first off, I'll give you the emoji to click on. Wait, I will now. Yeah, like this. And then I can edit it so it says poll. Hashtag poll. Here we go. So, from the first poll, we have a rather clear no, I would say. Yeah. All right. So this is not forever. The story will go where it will go. And of course, I will ask again if I decide or if it feels to me like I should go against this poll result. If it turns out that way, but for now, let's say we made a preliminary decision to not have any personal antagonists, and I'm kind of surprised there, but pleasantly. We have a unanimous vote in favor of this story also, at least focusing on Munira learning to become a Magi herself. So that's possible. Now, how that goes, we can have her become quite powerful, of course, if we want to make it an empowering story for her. We can make kind of a little joke of it by Sam stating in some place, yeah, of course, you have to do all those gruesome exercises, and you have to learn this, and you have to learn that, and you have to read this whole library of books, and maybe after 200, 300 years, you may begin to be able to do something that looks a little bit supernatural if you squint and hold your head just like this. Not sure. We can go either way, and I think both can be interesting because I personally dislike this kind of fantasy story, and I'm reading a lot of them, and I dislike them all, at least that aspect of them, where you have a person kind of coming into the fantasy setting from the outside, and then kind of finding a cheat or something like that, finding the easy way, or finding out that they are impossibly gifted or something like that, and then learning it all within 2 weeks, and then becoming better than everybody else at it. And I'm not a fan of that. So I'm guessing we won't have Munira throwing fireballs anytime soon, but who knows? I'm open in that regard too. All right. Thanks a lot for participating in the polls, not just with clicking, but with your text contributions, which were very helpful. Thanks a lot. This tea is really good. I recommend tea. Just little word from this show's sponsor. drink more tea. And maybe, just maybe, you too can become one of the world's most spectacularly unsuccessful writers, like me. I drink a lot of tea, can promise that. So there's a chance that this correlates in some way, that there's some sort of causal relationship there. Possible. I'm not saying it is, but it's possible. All right. What last happened was, and here we go, trying to avoid that topic in a not very successful manner. We each have slightly different perspectives and approaches, Torah said. I, for example, visited one of your prisons and freed the people there. It was more difficult than I expected in some ways, because many did not understand what was happening, I think, and did not trust me. But we expected issues like that in the beginning, obviously. You just freed everyone from a prison, Munira said thoughtfully. I'm not sure that will make your little project very popular with the majority of people. She herself was not completely sure how to see it, so she refrained from immediately offering up her own assessment. Neither will Sam's first step, Torah responded. We haven't come here to win a popularity contest. Yeah, Munira muttered, looking at Torah's plate. You've come here to kick ass and eat blueberry pie, and you've still got some blueberry pie left for now. So this was how we ended last time, discussing what the Magi did. By the way, something aside, I think that hasn't been mentioned so far at all. I think, well, rather obviously, in a mainstream, Millicent says always more tea. Yeah, here we go. That's the spirit. I think in kind of a mainstream, it doesn't even make sense anymore to say Hollywood movie, does it? Like maybe I should rather cite some sort of online streaming service series. I think it's very obvious that the Magi would have different accents. They wouldn't speak the same English. They would all have slight accents to, well, I think make them appear more foreign and stress their different backgrounds or something like that. And I'm not sure that would be a good thing. I'm not sure we should emulate that. We could mention it somewhere, but I think I'm definitely not going to portray it when I read them. So if you would like Torah, for example, to have a Norse accent or something completely different, you can imagine that, and you can, of course, tell me. I just don't think I'm the guy who should try to emulate that when I read their dialogue, so I won't do that. Not only because I can't. I would be bad at it. Also because I think it would be kind of problematic, especially for those who are not Norse and white. And Torah isn't necessarily that. Just chose that name. Just to put that out there, I'm not going to make it a poll right now, but just wanted to mention it because it came to mind. So, I'm going to go back a little bit further to see what the others have already said. So what is it? Yeah. You refuse to get to the point. What is it? I'm not giving you a shove in the right direction, a nudge, if you will. I meant what I said. Yeah, there's Torah. Let's go that way, maybe. Of course, as always, feel free to intercede and tell me what to do or ask questions, but I have an idea where I want to go for now, and I think I will even incorporate our last poll in this right now, because I think it makes sense. But for now, we need Torah, and I'm mighty glad I do. Like that. Torah responded. No, Torah just did that. Torah said, it's delicious. Where was Jasper? Here, that was the last time Jasper moved. Daintily started over to them and jumped down to sit on Pakari's lap. What was the sorry, was the last thing that happened there. After a second of thoughtful silence, Jasper jumped up from Pakari's lap onto the table, strutted over to Tora's side, not even seeming to notice the pieces of silverware and what's that? What's the other stuff? Crockery? Do you say crockery? I'm not sure. I'm going to open my translation program, I think. It had to step around. I'm trying to see this. Yeah, that's. It might be a tad annoying if I do that in every sentence, but I think I haven't so far. So maybe I use this example. And this is an example where what I'm saying is not extremely important, and it's not even extremely difficult to convey as such, but I'm trying to find the right words to make the readers, you know, feel not just the exact meaning of what I'm trying to do, but really feel like they witnessed it and get the mood kind of you know, the cat just purposefully strutting across a table, not stepping on or touching anything of what's lying around there, without trying to have to put effort in. And I want to do that with as little words as possible, because if I make a whole thing of it and write like a paragraph about it, then it becomes a thing, and it has to be something subtle, something that just happens without you even really noticing it, but still I want to convey that feeling. And as one example, this is not important, but I think in the sum of the text, the different, hopefully many instances of this kind of thing happening make the difference between the text conveying a real feeling of the right mood, of making the reader really feel there and part of the story, and really diving into the world we are building for them and feeling like there is a world there, versus the reader just feeling that someone typed words onto a page. So it's not a huge thing as one example, but I think getting this right is very important for good writing. And I think I haven't done it yet here. And obviously, I might not get it done perfectly, because if I were able to do this kind of thing perfectly within a few minutes, I probably wouldn't be one of the world's most spectacularly unsuccessful writers. But at least like that guy who taught Mozart, you know, maybe I can be a writer who's able to see enough to recognize their own mediocrity. Like that, maybe. I don't know the first thing about the guy who taught Mozart. I watched a very short part of some movie about Mozart, and uh, I remember that guy saying something to that effect, and I think that was a rather well written piece of dialogue, so I remember it. So in case you happen to know more about the guy who taught Mozart and want to say now, this is unfair, he's actually a great musician, he was very, very, very good and he made fantastic music and he was also a nice guy or something, possible, possible. All right. What do I want to do? First off, I'm going to check tableware. Dishes, maybe I want to say dishes. Let's say silverware, food, drinks, and dishes. Is that too much? I want to, of course, that's, yeah, you see, we need some finesse here because obviously we need to convey that the table is rather full of stuff to make it work, because if there are just 3 plates and a cup on the table, there's nothing interesting about a cat walking through without touching anything. So we need to make it appear that there's a lot of stuff without saying that again. And in case you wonder, well, what's that about? Why is he even doing that? You might gather that I want Jasper to now try the delicious blueberry pie. So, after a second of thought, Jasper jumped up from Pakari's lap onto the table. Maybe we'll add without a sound, because that makes sense to mention, and it helps convey the feeling of a cat walking very elegantly to me. Had to step around. So the thing is, yeah, as I said, of course, we can use more words and explain it, but I think that might make it worse. We could use less words, but I'm not sure which one I should replace or leave out. Epiphany says, for what it's worth, I enjoy your writing and I think you have a lot of skill. Yeah, thank you. That's nice. Thanks. That's kind of you to say. And I hope I'm not really bad. Who knows? It's, of course, also a matter of perspective. No? There are a lot of people who love Dan Brown. And I think Dan Brown is one of the most abominable writers in the world. I think I would rather read something my colleagues here in the office have written than something by him. The average first grade children's practice story from school is more enjoyable to me than a story by Dan Brown. But still, I have to face the fact that he's a bestseller writer and movies have been made from his novels, and there are millions, literally millions of people who love his stuff. Yeah, so you can see there's it's complicated, and I think just to make that clear, yes, I think I'm a much better writer than Dan Brown, and probably so are you. Oh, it snows. It started snowing outside. That's fun. So yeah, I think that. But there are lots of better writers than I am, and I'm glad you feel that way, Epiphany. Thank you. I just, yeah, what was I going for originally? I got a bit lost in my hatred against Dan Brown. He deserves it, but still, this is not what this live stream is about. But he deserves it. I don't want to make you feel like you have to write that kind of thing to cheer me up. But thank you, thank you. But Dan Brown really is awful, right? And I think it says he's writing bad stories in a way that makes me suspect he's also not a very nice human being. that too. All right, so Dan Brown, if you're watching, find another occupation and be ashamed. Just in case. You're probably not, but in case you're watching, please. I'm serious. Yeah, also, I wrote it, but that's not right. Jasper is a he, right? I'm checking to make sure, but I think Jasper is a he. Oh, she. My mistake. There you go. Yeah, I think I'm gonna leave it for now. Epiphany says, I've never read anything by Dan Brown and I don't intend to start. Well, yeah, to be fair, I've only ever read a book of his in a German translation, so that makes it harder to like, of course. So my experience was very much biased, but still, I've written, sorry, I've read texts of his in English, not a whole book, because one was really enough, and it didn't give me the impression that there's anything I miss, or you for that effect. Just generic action mystery drivel, and it's not even entertaining in a way some other generic action mystery drivel can be. All right, enough now, enough. I'm going to put my hatred for Dan Brown back in the bottle now, and put that away somewhere safe where it can't get out again. Place it in the now imagine that scene from the end of Indiana Jones with that I'm not sure which episode or which movie, but that huge warehouse with like endless rows and rows and rows of high what do you call them, boards for storage of big crates, and then imagine a little, what do you call those? Lifter? In Germany we call them Gabelstapler. Forklift, right? Yeah, right. A forklift with a crate saying Fabian's hatred for Dan Brown, and just driving on into infinity through these endless rows of. While I'm at it, they are called. No, other way around. Shelves, these endless rows of shelves that contain the other boxes with my hatred for other authors. So like that. You have to imagine it like that, please. Or if you want. If you want an accurate feeling for how my hatred for Dan Brown is being stored. I think I'm going to leave this paragraph like that, but I'm going to make a little note. So I hopefully, maybe I'll fix it in post. Wrong button. Here we go. Maybe I can make this work better to convey the feeling of the cat being very sure-footed or something like that. She curled up right beside Tora's table, and Gekrimbel says, I liked the first of his books when I was younger because I found it very daring and generally good to criticize the Catholic Church in any possible way, even by inventing weird conspiracies inside it. But then I read some more, and it's always the same pattern, just applied to different organizations. In brackets also, I read it in English when my English wasn't very good, and that makes it very easy to not suffer from bad style. I found it really bad. No, go away, hatred for Dan Brown. Go back into your shell. Go back to that warehouse. Leave us alone. We're trying to have a writing stream here. Go, leave. Push. She curled up right beside Tora's table and stretched her neck a bit to take a bite from the blueberry pie. Munira watched and almost opened her mouth to ask if this was okay, because her family had always been very firm about pets not getting human food, not only for hygienic reasons, but also because it was bad for them. This also is a paragraph we could have written more elegantly, or I could have. I always struggle a bit because on the one hand, I don't want to always say I'm writing, because this is a group effort and I want to include you in it, and I don't want to make you feel like you're not participating. But on the other hand, since I think by character and tendency as well as by actual necessity, I'm talking a lot about the deficits of this text and the problems with it. And then I don't want to make you feel like I make you responsible for what I'm typing, because the specific wording of this paragraph, for example, is completely my mistake. But she remembered in time this being maybe rather like that, that Jasper was no ordinary cat. And also what, now who was that who has called her a tyrant? Pakari. Pakari had said about her being a tyrant. Munira was not sure how funny that had been supposed to be. This is a bit terrible, I guess, as a sentence. Had been supposed to be, but I'm not sure how else to do it. How much of a joke that had been. That was supposed to be is of course a possibility, but it feels not better. I think I'm going to stay with that for now. It doesn't feel as important as the thing with Jasper strutting over the table anyway. Now, this is the place where I think, well, Munira has asked about her family before, I think. How did that go? It's not exactly important right now, but all right, we haven't used the word family before that. Gekrimbel asks, so Jasper just takes on a cat form and not a cat-specific blueberry pie sensitive stomach. Possibly. You know, it's kind of a mystery right now. I'm not even sure. I mean, what exactly, I'm not sure how does a cat's digestive system work. I know because I've read it on Tumblr about 7,000 times that cats are obligatory carnivores. But does that mean they can really eat meat exclusively? I think cats can eat other stuff, right? What exactly is bad for them? I know that, for example, chocolate contains something that's poisonous to dogs. I know that that salt is not good for dogs. Not sure about cats. Yeah, I'm going to stop just throwing out random stuff I read somewhere about what animals eat, but I'm not sure how bad blueberry pie actually is for a cat if they just take a bite. I'm not saying feed your cats blueberry pie. Gekrimbel says, I'm not opposed to it being a mystery, I just wanted to have thought about it. Yeah, that's kind of what I was going for with that paragraph that one thing I was going for, that's several, of course, with this paragraph here. It's there to remind the reader that this is not just some cat eating blueberry pie, but this is a Magi. And we don't know. I'll leave it explicitly open for now, maybe forever. If Jasper actually is the cat who learned magic, or maybe was magic all along. If Jasper used to be a human being, learned magic, and decided to turn into a cat, and how the specific changes in her body happen. Or maybe Jasper is not an organic life form at all, but sort of an angel demon magical being that incarnates as a cat. It's all open. The thing is, it's a bit like in every science fiction or fantasy story. We can kind of do whatever we want. It just has to make sense within itself. We have to remember what we did. Like, for example, after having done this, we cannot, or only with appropriate explanation in the surroundings, we cannot later on, for example, have Jasper suffer for having eaten a bite of broccoli or something and say, yeah, no wonder, she's a cat, she can't digest it. Because then the reader would say, well, how about that thing on page 49 where Jasper eats blueberry pie and doesn't suffer from it? So is Jasper a cat with a cat stomach or not? What is going on here? And the reader would be completely right to criticize us for that. So the important thing now is to remember this. And I think we will probably not forget it very soon, or I won't at least. I'm not sure how your memory works. That didn't mean if it works as good as mine, but I just think I've talked about this for so long and thought about it, and there are notes on it and all that. I think in my memory it's stuck now. I was not going to compare your memory to mine and saying mine is wonderful or something like that. It's not. We have to remember that, and of course we can explain it a bit. That's also something we have to strike a balance about, because we need a few things explained. It's difficult, or at least it's difficult. I think you can have magic be a core thing in your world and never explain anything about it, give it no rules, just have it be this weird force that sometimes does things. I think it's possible to pull that off, but it's difficult, because if you give the readers feeling the feeling that there are rules, you don't have to go into much detail. You don't have to work with I don't know, formula and give it specific numerical values that cannot be, or have a whole rule system in the background. You don't have to do that. But you have to give the readers sort of a little feeling that there are rules in place and that you, as a writer, and the world you're writing understand them. That's enough. If the readers just have the feeling, okay, it's a miracle and there are no rules I can rely on at all, then that makes it too random, and that makes reading what's the right word? Unsatisfactory. Can you say that? Can you say unsatisfactory? Unsatisfying, not satisfying. That doesn't make for a satisfying read, because you have the feeling that you don't understand what's going on, and that it's all just random chance who succeeds and who doesn't, and you want. And of course, that's a problematic narrative, so we have to be careful about it. But you kind of want your readers to feel that the people who win and are successful deserve it in some way. This is, of course, very complicated and a problematic idea, but a bit of that feeling has to be there. And that can only happen if the readers have a feeling that there are some rules in place. Like, for example, maybe this is a special pet peeve of mine, one more, but I personally find it very annoying that there's that trope in almost every story about big, mysterious, magical threats, personalized magical threats. that it almost always turns out in a way like there's this 10 million years old, intelligent, magical being that has powers and maybe even kind of an education about them, like learned about them. And then you have like a schoolboy from Michigan who learned that magic exists last week. And he tricks the magical being because he understands the weaknesses and strengths of their magic better than the monster does. And that's just something that throws me out of a story. So just as an aside for how important the rules are or something. Epiphany says unsatisfying is a word. I looked it up. Well, I think it says something wonderful about our lives that we all were unsure if this is an actual word and we had to look it up, don't you? Let's be glad and enjoy that feeling for 10 seconds. That was nice, wasn't it? I'm not sure. I didn't check if this was exactly 10 seconds, but I wanted it to feel a tad longer than is comfortable. All right, now let's have Munira say something. But what is she going to say exactly? Oh yeah, I also wanted to check. I was quite sure that Munira asked about her family, but maybe she used the word parent instead. No. What did we? Does anyone remember? Well, no, it can't contain the word parents. Father, mother, is that there? No. No. Often? No. Did we say nothing about that? I'll not check this live on the stream now. If you remember, you can let me know. If you don't, I'll check it. Hopefully until next time. I can't make any promises right now because work is hell right now, and I'm not finding time for anything. But it will get better again. So let's go with what I originally intended and progress the story a bit. So instead, she returned to another thought that had seemed very intriguing to her at the time. You mentioned something about, and then she hesitated because it suddenly felt very ridiculous to ask, and she was mortally afraid everybody would stare at her in awkward silence before starting to point and loudly laugh at the ridiculous girl who thought she could learn magic. But still, she forced herself to say it. I think you said I could, I might, you said something about second Magi, and I took that to mean if you think this is too hesitant for her, because Munira has been quite bold so far, but I just got the feeling that there's a real possibility of being ridiculous and ashamed there, and people hate being ashamed, and maybe especially people who like to present as strong and fearless. So I thought it might be appropriate and might work out. What doesn't work out is loudly. That has to be loudly. But if you think she should be more straightforward about it and maybe just have the doubts mentioned in her thoughts without them showing up so clearly in her words, I'm open to that. It just felt right to me to type it like that, but maybe I'll even get another idea myself after having it settled for a while. Sam's smile was a great relief to her because it seemed agreeable and encouraging. So she hadn't misunderstood or misremembered that remark, apparently. Sam nodded. All right. And I think we will stop for today without going into the details. I did say that. They exclaimed. And let's stop here for today. And from there on, we need to think about how to proceed with that, because we had a poll and we got a unanimous decision that we want to make this story not exclusively, but that we want to make this story about Munira learning to do magic. And so we need to develop a concept how to do that. And I'm not saying you have to develop that concept and present it to me next time. I'm just saying maybe try to think about it and make up your mind how you want us to do it. Will it be them going into some sort of magical university or library and Munira having to read a lot of stuff with Sam overseeing? Or will it be more like Sam and the other Magi going on with trying to change the world, hopefully for the better, and Munira just tagging along and like watching like an internship? Or will it be a combination of the two? Will it even be Munira being shipped off to some remote place where someone else teaches her? Will the Magi take turns? Will someone else start? Are there more Magi that are not here now? That's things we will have to decide when Munira starts learning magic. And I think what feels most obvious and intuitive to me would be Sam teaching her and doing it like in that classical master and apprentice, teacher and apprentice. Master is a horrible word, right? But still, we need a bit fantasy oomph. So I thought master might be good, but I think it's not. Well, we can talk about the wording later on too, but I think what feels most intuitive and obvious to me would be that kind of thing. But that doesn't mean it's the best way to approach this. So there can be 1,000 other possibilities, and we can think about that until next time and then see how it works out. For today, I'm saying thank you for watching and participating in my little live stream. It was a great joy to me, and I hope it was enjoyable to you too. If you feel like it, push all the buttons that say you enjoyed this. And of course, feel free to share this with others who might be interested in participating. But most of all, have a nice week and have a good time. Enjoy yourself. And if you like, think about our story a bit and come back with ideas, and let's talk about it in the chat too. And until then, all the best and goodbye.